Coming up on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener podcast, Joey and Holly will talk about using your freezer for long-term storage. We also have guests Randy and Amanda from YouTube channel Getting There Green. The link will be live on the show notes, February 20th, 6 a.m. Central Standard Time on BePreparedRadio.com and downloadable from iTunes.
Sponsored in part by DollarSeed.com for your flowers, vegetables, and herbs. All organic seeds, all only $1 a pack. DollarSeed.com. And by WillowSpringsSoap.com. Handmade soaps with simple, recognizable ingredients, making soaps using the cold kettle process while using traditional methods. WillowSpringsSoap.com.
Manurety.com, authentic Haven brand, 100% natural soil conditioner for the home gardener, for all your vegetables, herbs, and flowers. Manurety.com, always free shipping. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Extra. I'm Holly Baird. Today I'm going to show you some alternatives to traditional wheat flour. Now, traditional wheat flour is not grown and not made from the wheat that our grandparents made or grew, say, or great-grandparents even, say, before World War II. It's heavily genetically modified, and it can cause a lot of harm to people. Also, it can cause weight gain and cause you to not feel full. So I've learned about some different alternatives to traditional wheat flour. Now, it doesn't matter if it's wheat or white, whole wheat, white flour, whatever. If it's wheat flour, most people have been switching away from that just for those simple facts. Now, we've actually changed our diet where we just incorporate more vegetables, more fruits, and then sometimes we'll do like brown rice or quinoa, and also potatoes and things like that to get some of those starches, or even high starch vegetables like squash and just different things like that to get some of those starches into our diet, as opposed to replacing it with some sort of convenience gluten-free food. But this is if you would like to maybe bake your own bread or any other sort of baked goods. So set that aside. The first thing I want to talk about is pumpkin flour. Now, we made our own pumpkin flour. It's easily made by dehydrating your pumpkins, and we do have a video on it. You dehydrate your pumpkins, just the flesh part, and then you go ahead and grind them up, and then you make pumpkin flour. This is done with the pumpkin seeds as well, a pumpkin seed flour. Now, these are not a total replacement. You would want to replace up to a quarter of the pumpkin flour in a recipe. And sometimes when you're baking in regards to using different flours that are not traditional wheat flours, you may have to experiment a little bit and do some research. Pumpkin seed flour is good because it gives you a lot of fiber, and you can replace maybe a couple tablespoons depending on how much flour is needed in the recipe. Then we have garbanzo flour, or some people will use it's called fava flour or combination. You can also use this in place of rice flour in most cases, and it adds a little bit more protein. So that's one good alternative. And there's coconut flour. I've seen a lot of recipes, especially if you search like Pinterest, a lot of recipes using coconut flour right alongside other flours, and it just adds a fluffiness to it. It's very, very healthy for you. Then there's oat flour. And the good news is you can make your oat flour. Now, if you do have a serious gluten sensitivity, you would want to make sure you purchase specifically gluten-free oats to make your own oat flour. But if you don't, and you're just trying to avoid the whole wheat, you can just buy some oats and make your own oat flour as well. So that's a good alternative. I use this a lot for a lot of whole wheat flour recipes because it seems to have the same consistency. I use the garbanzo flour very similarly. Sometimes I'll use it in the case where you use flour as a thickener, or maybe you're going to coat something in flour. That works real well for that as well. Then there's almond flour, and this you would want to use kind of the same as a pumpkin flour, where you just replace about a quarter of what the recipe calls for in that recipe. So those are some great options there, and I found these at my huge grocer store, mega grocer warehouse, and I also found them online many places. And then we also have a organic food co-op that you can purchase these items in bulk, and I found them there. And the price kind of varies. The bulk section at the organic food co-op was the best deal. Now, one thing that we grew in our garden a couple summers ago was sorghum, and you can use this as a flour replacement. You just simply remove the little hulls off of the stalks, as you can see, and then you would grind it up and turn that into a flour replacement as well as a traditional wheat flour. And people even have made brooms out of the sorghum. and even syrups. So that's a good idea. Now, if you are going to stop eating wheat flour, I would highly suggest not just purchasing some sort of all-purpose baking blend, because there can be a lot of extra additives and even some salts and things like that in there. Obviously, if you don't have the time and you need something quick, that might be a good idea. But I would suggest experimenting with the different flours. I have found, however, that there are some good things like this gluten-free pizza crust, and it's a whole grain mix, and it's kind of nice because if you want pizza that's healthier than buying a frozen pizza, and it's cheaper for sure than buying a gluten-free frozen pizza. And then there's some other alternatives as well. So if you are interested in gluten-free baking, I would suggest that you definitely go online, especially like websites like Pinterest, where you can search for a whole bunch of recipes. And there's a lot of different alternatives to move away from that wheat flour, which may be harmful to you and your family. I'm Holly Baird, and this has been a Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Extra. If you like what you see, please feel free to subscribe to our channel or leave a comment. We put out a new video every Tuesday.
For more information, you can find us on our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.